Yeah, what I'll do, sorry, I was at another lecture there 2 minutes ago. I'm going to look at the history of hyaluronidase, and then I suppose also how it came into aesthetic medicine per se. So let's start here.
Right now, we are searching these tide pools off the coast of Eastern Australia for the most toxic fish on the planet. The stonefish is notorious for having the most painful sting in all of nature. And today, I'm going to get stung by a stonefish. But first, we've got to find one. Let's get looking. It's going to be very hard to find the stonefish because in addition to their legendary... Wow, there it is. That is the stonefish. Look at that tide pool monster. I can't believe we found one. I mean, it looks like a living rock. I never would have spotted this.
Okay, so why do we show stonefish? Where do we get hyaluronidase? Hyaluronidase has to be within organisms or organs, including your penis and sperm, that needs to infiltrate another organ. So as a consequence, all vertebrates that want to kill you or that contain venom, be it wasps, be it bees, well, bees anyway, be it stonefish, they'll contain hyaluronidase. Sperm to reach an ova, it'll contain hyaluronidase. And also, the first hyaluronidase, outside Karl Mayer's work in Boston, was, of course, it was got from stonefish. And our American colleagues who use genetically available hyaluronidase, it comes from stonefish. So let's have a quick look at it. So the discovery of hyaluronidase, as I said, came from venomous sources originally. But before that, we had Karl Mayer, and Karl was one of those famous German Jewish doctors that had to leave during the period, I suppose, of Nazism in Germany. And there was many incredible Jewish doctors, as you know, even scientists like Albert Einstein that had to go. But only mention Karl because he left Berlin, where Kanye is from, and he met with very famous biochemists at the time. And I have a first in biochemistry as well as medicine, so these people are very, I suppose, common to me, associated with me. Hans Krebs, Ernst Chain, these were the people that worked out the protein structure of hemoglobin and other things. So he had originally worked in the Rockefeller Center in Zurich, and he was given an assistant professorship in the University of California. In 1932, while at Berkeley, he decided to stay there, worked as an ophthalmologist, and of course, the discovery first of vitreous humor, which was hyaluronic acid, the same as the contents within your knee. And I remember originally back in Scotland, in Edinburgh in 1991, we were injecting 2% hyaluronic acid into knees, probably still doing it, and rather than cortisone, to try and use it as a therapeutic one for osteoarthritis. Now, Karl was interested from the point of view that not only did he discover hyaluronic acid in 1934, but he also discovered hyaluronidase. And the most amazing thing is that Karl had a lot of close friends that became very famous scientists, and we mentioned some of them earlier, but he felt that he had wasted his life because all he had done was discover hyaluronic acid. Little did he know that we're all here probably because of hyaluronic acid. It's a bit like the guy who turned on the Beatles originally, didn't see the opportunity that was ahead of him. So at the time, he was given a very significant prize. He should have got the Nobel Prize, I would have thought, but the American Association of Biologists and Chemists gave him one of America's top awards at the time. And during his sort of speech, to the audience, he said, "It is my opinion that mucopolysaccharides will never be a popular field in biochemistry. They'll probably be relegated to insignificance and disregard in the sense that they were held some years ago." And then even when he was giving an honor also by the National Academy of Scientists in the United States in 1967, he turned around and says, "Looking back on my scientific career, I've often wondered whether it was worthwhile to stick so tenaciously to a technically difficult and conceptually apparently unexciting field of medicine, whereas my colleagues shifted over to the more fashionable and rewarding trends. Little did he know that certainly 40 years later, his discovery would have been more fashionable and more rewarding. So what does it do? As I said, we use it to penetrate things, be it sperm and ova, but also as a consequence, it can distribute drugs, particularly during myocardial infarction. You can use hyaluronidase to distribute the cardiac drugs throughout the dying myocardium better. We use it with Botox, particularly during hyperhidrosis. It'll increase the spread, reduce your possibility of creating sort of complications. And of course, what it's doing is breaking down some of the hyaluronic acid within the skin to allow dispersal of the drugs much better. We also used to use it in the hospitals for breakdown of hematomas, so it works well for that. And it causes also, I suppose, the breakdown within the skin of hyaluronic acid into these low molecular weight pro-inflammatory, pro-cytokine type structures that we give rise to inflammatory nodules. And it's interesting, we had a total session yesterday, do you remember, Tanya, with ways of breaking down inflammatory nodules, and we left it at methotrexate, but now we're looking at the possibility of JAK inhibitors doing the same thing, much safer as well. So the original genetic structures for hyaluronidase that were used and used quite effectively now in the United States came from stonefish. And this is the paper by Chong Nig at the time, 2004, I think, for its use. So this is a timeline that I quickly made up. Karl Mayr discovered it in 1934. The research that he did, and it was particularly associated with joints, and that it was from 1940s to 1950s. He then discovered there were different types of hyaluronidases within the body. That was 1971. And then really, if you look at it, the cloning of aquatic hyaluronidase didn't happen to 2004. So we were in very early with the use of hyaluronidase, I suppose, in aesthetic medicine. Regarding hyaluronic fillers, I suppose back some time ago, I had contacted QMed at the time to say, if we're going to use hyaluronidase, what's the dosage and all the rest? And I got back, I think, saying, listen, you don't have to worry about that. There's no problems with our fillers. This was the original company in Sweden, of course, who made them. Wonderful company, QMed. Little did they know what lay ahead at the time. 2004, at the FACE conference, I predicted that we'd probably end up with blindness from dermal fillers. Michael came to Ireland to get fillers taken out. I'm not sure why he's there per se. That was 2006. Maybe I'm on a timeline myself. 2007, I'd said we've got to start considering hyaluronidase because we were using it at that stage. We were using hyaluronidase back in 1999, and I suppose fillers came into the States, hyaluronic acid fillers, in 2005 to 2007. So Arnie Klein had sent Michael to us to remove some fillers before he met the Queen. That was me sort of saying then, that we got to use very high dose hyaluronidase to, this is before Claudio Lorenzo had done his arterial embolus, and this is hyaluronic acid caught within an artery. If you get that, don't be afraid to inject hyalase. Inject, inject, inject. Everybody says to only use 30 or 50 units. I don't agree. Put in 300 to 500 units. You're going to cause no problem. You're trying to save a patient's face. You're going to try and save their sort of sight. Now, the thing is, so that's 17 years ago, we were doing that. We had the first case of blindness in the UK and Ireland at the RSM. Lucy Clancy had sort of did it. I'm down to 29 seconds. I better go through this fast. I had written originally regarding the supraorbital use rather than the retrobulbar use. And this is us in Moscow with that protocol. And at IMCAS this year, our colleague, Jean Carruthers, Professor Jean, said also we should use the supraorbital method. They called that protocol back then in Russia the Treacy protocol. That's some years ago. That's me with the media. And that's me on time. Okay.